The reason why I focus on the early phases that are so valuable in projects, and the way that I explain this to architects and builders, is that my sole focus is working with clients to make amazing buildings and actually build them, not just look at them on paper, and build them on time, on budget, so they can open their doors sooner. And that's the reason we work this way, and that's the reason why this process has been developed over all these years. We see client issues and we see pitfalls. We often see clients getting schematic design packages that might cost, $25,000, and unfortunately, I very often see them not getting very much from that, or even worse, confused and not liking what they're seeing. And now they really don't know what to do because they feel committed to an architect, they've spent a bunch of money, who they don't feel like they get it. Or maybe they're not listening to them, or they have their own agenda, or whatever the reason, it really doesn't matter, because they're just unhappy. This could be because they're really just looking at it as a complete process getting all the way to the end and not an effort in itself. But we're not making construction or permit drawings yet, so why build it that way when we have so much stuff to figure out? And this is why we focus on the early stage as its own project. Focus specifically on that with specific tools and methods that we've developed. We use a project strategy plan as a way to consider the whole process, but that's really just the first step. And not every project moves all the way along, so we don't need to be committing past this initial phase. And I've seen that mess up the process quite a bit for clients as well. And this is why we provide this concept or schematic design set, which is a springboard for going forward with the rest of the project if the client is ready to go forward. And again, so we are able to sort of limit their investment at the beginning, and if they want to move forward, great, but it's not necessarily what they're committing to from the beginning. Depending on where you're at, you may want more or less strategy support, which is really at the core of all of this. And there's a reason why commercial developers often follow a similar model. And businesses or whatever repeated concept with multiple locations, they have standards that are established, streamlined processes internally, and key team members are involved at the very beginning to get the core concept that is then rolled out from there and customized for whatever the specific market is. And so we're taking some of the initial scope off of the architect of record and shifting it to this process. So the premium for this is low, but the benefit and value has shown itself to be very high. And believe me, after we go through this initial process, there's plenty to figure out, don't worry. But getting the bones of the project together quickly with the owner to support the business is the key here. When it comes to integrating with the rest of the design and construction team, there is no silver bullet, and our models are intended for getting the concept right and putting the pieces together, and speed is key for this, and Revit is too cumbersome, at least for me, but it's great for construction, and hence our separation between the initial concept and then the sort of construction phase. And the model that is built for construction, as you know, is different. And Revit and things like that are fantastic for managing all that building information, coordinating with all the other different engineers and trades, etc. And for clients, always do this in 3D if possible today, because there's really no need to be doing things in 2D unless it's pretty simple. But these are different goals, concept and construction. These are the opposite ends of the spectrum. But figuring it out, getting it ready for construction, there's a natural break there going from concept into construction. And that's how I've seen it be very efficient to build the permit and construction model clean, not to try to Frankenstein the same model from the very beginning to the end. There's often just a rebuilding or a sort of clean model that's started at this handoff, even in an office if they started at the very beginning. When I'm handing this off to a design build contractor, this works really well and there really is no friction. The design build team is taking this concept or schematic set and they use it for pricing very early. We get a very early estimate, and this is what we use to develop the project from there. For people who are working with an architect or want to work with an architect, or maybe they already have one, and a separate contractor, that's no problem at all, because every project needs an architect. And our work is really just the springboard for that work going forward. And so we provide 3D models and CAD backgrounds, which can be used as backgrounds in a Revit model or for whatever else. And we also provide key specifications and code notes based on project experiences, because these things aren't very complicated all the time, but they are, irregular most of the time. And so the sort of code knowledge and research we've done over a decade now often can speed things up. When it comes to support, my goal is to have ecstatic clients who open amazing businesses, period. As the project progresses, things like peer review spot checks and just generally being available to advise you as you move along help things stay on target and answer questions as you move forward and whatever questions you might have. Every project we work on has a handoff, and we've been doing this all around the country, all around the world now. And sometimes people aren't used to it, but this is a team sport. And we just happen to be specialists in this way of working. We've developed our whole office and our whole framework to support it. And all of our experience developing projects from ideas to an open, successful business is what is going into this. And even though we are focusing on the beginning, that really is the springboard. And don't worry, there's plenty to figure out. And we are not claiming that this is a ironed out set of architectural drawings, because at a concept or schematic stage, that's not what it's supposed to be, and we all know that. So what we're really doing here is just working directly with owners in our sort of taking them through our framework, getting them to a point where they can confidently move forward to race through the project, get into permitting, and get the thing open as quickly as possible, so they're not paying extra rent that they don't need to have, and they're not screwing around on a building that they don't want to be paying more money for than what they need to be paying for. So we found this to be a very productive way of working. And again, we are just one of the members of the team. We are not directing this process. We are really just trying to help in the way that we have found to be the most valuable for the clients.